What's going on, Internet? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerdlocker podcast. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jimmy. And now, a word from our sponsor. If you live in Las Vegas, please visit Maximum Comics for all your nerdy needs. They have 4 convenient locations around the valley. Every store has a great staff with a large selection of comic books, toys, games, apparel, and much more. Check them out online at MaximumComics.com or visit them at one of their locations. Tell them Nerdlocker sent you.
And you should definitely be stopping in there. And if you don't live in Vegas, stop into a comic book store because we're going to be talking about just comics in general, some stuff you should be reading. And right now, we're going to start with Dark Knight's Metal, which is the current event going on from DC Comics, which is written by Scott Snyder, who's probably my current favorite writer that's, actively writing. And Greg Capullo, Team Batman from, the New 52. And they had an amazing run on that. This is kind of... a lot of the stuff in here started in his run, and some other things were he's actually pulling from Grant Morrison's run when he killed Batman, for those of you that read that, the Batman RIP whole thing. But yeah, Jim, you just read the first couple issues there. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me start off with, I'm obviously clueless because I had no idea that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were getting back together again. I thoroughly enjoyed them in the New 52. Probably one of the reasons why I talk fondly of New 52, where a lot of people didn't like it. But that Batman run, starting with the Court of Owls and just going almost to the end. I didn't enjoy that plant thing at the end, but almost all the way. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So I had no clue this was going on until you said, hey, dude, you have to check this out. And in typical listening to Brandon fashion, I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. But then I finally did. And oh, man, the tying in to the New 52 is genius. It's almost like what he did with Quarter Owls in that he didn't really change anything about Batman as far as what we knew of Batman, but he added this layer of Batman that changed everything about Batman and Gotham. And it's just genius how he's able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe my favorite thing about his run on the New 52 was that Batman and Green Lantern were essentially unchanged when everything went to the New 52. There were a few things that were different, and now with Rebirth, they've kind of bled the old continuity back into all this, and that's going to be answered more in the next big storyline. But this, yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool that you actually made Gotham, like the city, character, and this whole thing that Batman's been protecting his entire life, it turns out he doesn't know it as well as he thought he did. Like, there's a secret organization that has been there, and he had no idea they existed. So it's cool to see that he's taking stuff from that run, stuff from Morrison's run, and it's all leading up to this, which is Metal. For those of you who don't know, the metal that he's referring to is the Nth Metal, which is the Thanagarian metal that Hawkman and Hawkgirl use for their wings and everything like that. And there's just a lot of there's a lot of factors going into this. It's interesting because he'll write, I feel like there's mystery to Scott Snyder's books, but these especially have a Morrison feel to it because he's giving you just a lot of weird stuff that don't have answers yet, but I feel like, it'll all make sense in the end.
Yeah, I completely, and that's something that happened to me in the New 52 run is there are a lot of times where I'm like, man, I don't know where he's going with this, but story after story is like, well, he's earned my trust. I have full faith that he's going to wrap this up. Because one of my biggest complaints in comic books right now, and I don't know if it's just a now thing, if I'm becoming more cynical or more comic books are just being lazy, is there are a lot of great stories that just start off and built up. Like right now, I'm really nervous about the Joker versus Riddler war. They start fantastic, and then they just fizzle out and die, and they start a new story. And they're like, wait a minute, did you wrap up the last one? Because that was a weak ending. But Scott Snyder, I have full faith in him because he doesn't pull that. He resolves things in a way that makes sense, or even like this. This is stuff that is from the past, and he's pulling nuggets out of things that he's already written, and he's bringing it into a whole new story. And I have full faith that he's going to write a great story and resolve it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact that he's pulling from Morrison's run, which was pre New 52, I mean, that's Final Crisis. That was Morrison's giant, awesome run on that. But it's all dealing with when Darkseid sends Bruce back in time, and he's saying that this is where all of this started. There's organizations that are using Batman for something, and I don't want to get into too many spoilers. There's definitely some. You guys should read this, so I don't want you to tell you everything that's going on, but they get into the tribes, if you remember, with Grant Morrison's run. There's the Vandal Savages, the Wolf Tribe, and the Return of Bruce Wayne, and all that. And there's a group in the comic books that he reveals to be the Judas Tribe in issue 2, and it's really neat. And he's also taken some really odd things. Like, if did you Jim, did you read the last Justice League giant story arc where they fought Darkseid again, and Darkseid's daughter was there, and all that?
Was that the wrap up the New 52? I feel like I did
That
with
was like
Miracle
the
Man.
yeah, and at the end, Darkseid gets like de-aged into like a child.
Yes, and as you know, I am not a big fan of the New Gods. I know, Kirby's rolling around in his grave. I get that, but I'm usually not a big fan of the New Gods. But I really enjoyed that storyline.
Well, he ties that in again. It's a little ridiculous, and I read an interview with him, and he just loves that it's ridiculous, and he uses that to the story. So it's cool that he's not only using his own work, but he's using other work in the DC universe, which I always think makes for a better story because you're pulling from things other people have done and making them relevant. So it's not just a one-off story. Yeah, I mean, technically, at the end of that, um, we haven't seen Owlman. He's hiding out somewhere on Earth still. So there's always these things that sometimes don't always get resolved or just kind of like hang out. So I like that he's pulling from different stuff with this.
What I really like about Scott Snyder is I believe, if I remember correctly, he's or was like a history professor. So he ties in a lot of real history into this fiction of comic books, and I love how he does that.
Yeah, I know he's a professor. I didn't realize it was a history one, but that's awesome. But yeah, that's always cool too with certain writers. I mean, Tom King right now, who's writing Batman, he used to work for the CIA, and that's cool because he wrote some stuff with he wrote Grayson, and there was a lot of that kind of overlay as well. So it's always cool when people pull from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I really, I'm almost through Metal 2. Luckily, we're not giving away spoilers, so I don't have to know that. But I really enjoyed the Dark Days, the Forge and the casting.
Hmm.
It's definitely prologue leading into what's going to happen, but the use of the Joker is tremendous. The use of Duke and Green Lantern is fantastic. The only problem is because I've gotten into this where, and I blame Netflix, where I binge read now, where I don't go month to month because it's like, okay, whatever, I want to know now. So I'll wait a couple months and then read like 4 issues at once. So when I went immediately from the casting to Metal 1, I was like, wait a minute, what the heck just happened? We're on a moon having war. What? And it
Yeah.
was just you just had to wait a couple pages to let it explain to me what was going on. But it was just this jarring. Wait a minute, we were just dealing with the nth metal, and why are we on a war moon? This makes no sense.
Well, I liked how that was kind of like a Justice League story. It was just like you're just happen to join the Justice League,
Yeah,
in the middle of this thing. But um, yeah, he's really pulling from a lot of different stuff. And there was uh, the thing with the Plastic Man kind of Easter egg showing that he's going to play a bigger part. The fact that we really haven't seen Carter Hall yet,
mhm.
make you know makes me think he's gonna have some big grand entrance. And I'm
Well,
and
you
I'm a
say
big
modern day Carter Hall.
yeah, modern day. That's what I mean. Like he hasn't appeared yet. The Kendra Saunders thing was cool because I always really liked her over Shaira as Hawkgirl. So I like that there's a reference that she used to be Hawkgirl. Like she says she hung up the wings to be the pilot. And I just think this is going to be a really cool usher. Like this is going to usher in some really cool stuff with DC Comics leading into the big Watchmen story that'll be out. I think next year.
Yeah, I'm curious for that. And it's funny because before we started recording, that's one of the things that I was complaining to you is that my nerddom really exists with the X-Men. That's the one I know. If they throw in a weird character from way off, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's who that dude is.
Yeah,
So
like I remember that fucking '90s
exactly
mutant that
with
was in
this,
there for a little
it was
bit.
like I don't know if you remember when I actually first met you was at Blackest Night release party at Maximum Comics, and I just started to get back into DC, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, who the hell are all these characters? I don't know all these people. Cripes. So I had to look up who people were. And at moments with these Easter eggs, I'm like, well, I know Red Tornado.
Like I know it's this guy, but like you just no, I get
And,
it.
and what's worse is because I was out of comics for a long time, I was like, I don't know what incarnation of all these guys are. Like Re 52, I know booted a bunch of things, and I don't know what happened with Rebirth for some of these characters. So I don't know where we are, but okay, cool, awesome.
I will say it is getting harder to keep up because there's just so many goddamn comic books, and we are like super thankful for DC Comics because DC still gives us press releases. So we're definitely going to try to talk more about DC Comics with all of that.
Yes, thank you, DC.
But
And here's our Marvel segment because they don't give us comics. All right, back to DC.
exactly, like I have to you know do it that way. But anyways, um, yeah. So I think this is cool. I really think he's going to usher in a lot of new stuff. Um, like I said, this is kind of the most mystery filled one that he's done. So I'm
Yeah,
interested to see like how everything pays off with the Plastic Man, literal Easter egg, like the literal
that was
Plastic
fun.
Man Easter egg.
That was fun.
Um, yeah, and just Doctor Fate, Hawkman. I'm really excited to see how all that goes. So you guys should definitely be picking this up and checking it out.
Yeah, and I'll
Are
say because
you?
I'm sort of a stickler to the normal main titles, maybe because I'm old and I don't like to be adventurous. But this is definitely one that was well worth the recommendation. But like I was saying earlier, one of the main titles that I think people should pick up, and I'd be floored if Brandon wasn't reading this because it's his favorite character. But right now, Batman with this Joker Riddler war,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
fascinated.
a flashback. It's like a he's talking to Catwoman because he proposes to Catwoman before this story arc started, and then he's telling the story of when Joker and Riddler were at war for Gotham with villains taking sides, and it's a really good story right now.
I mean, I care about Kite Man.
That was so like right. He made. There's been two interludes with Kite Man, and they're fucking great. Like it makes you give a shit about Kite Man and just feel terrible.
Oh, and I don't think a new one came out, but you have to read the last one. It was heartbreaking,
Oh,
heartbreaking.
absolutely heartbreaking. It was so fucking ridiculous. When are you talking about the one? Yeah, it was the last one where
Yes.
his daughter's talking to him about how mommy thinks you're a loser. It's like, oh my god.
Yes, and
Uh,
I've never really like the Riddler to me is a fun villain. I hate to say it that way because even in what was it, Batman Zero Year when Snyder wrote it, it was like, oh, that's cool. He's trying to take over Gotham. I didn't.
I mean,
This
he's
one,
he's
like, he's
he's fucked
brutal.
up, but he's Snyder took him where it was still that like whimsical Riddler shit, but he was still a fucking asshole. Like he wasn't not fucked up. But no, this is a much darker Riddler than you've seen
Oh, he's
in quite some
brutal. Like
time.
he's toe to toe with Joker, and Joker you can
Yeah,
understand because he's insane. Riddler, it's like, oh man, Riddler,
yeah,
you got
he's
to
totally unhinged with
brutal.
this.
Yeah,
Um,
I was a little leery. I've read Batman since the Rebirth, and I wasn't fascinated. I mean, I liked the Gotham twins or whatever they were called. that was cool, but I thought the resolution was weak. I really thought the
Yeah,
Bane storyline was weak, but this one, I'm like, you know what? I'm really digging this.
yeah. No, I have to. I mean, that's I'll read Batman regardless of who's writing it or what's going on. But I've been really happy with Tom King so far, and this is a really good kind of segue to just give you more backstory, and while this is going on, while Metal's going on, give you some Batman stuff. Because I will tell you, sometimes DC's a little off with their event stuff. Like you'll be reading an event or you'll be reading Justice League, and there's not much continuity or mention of why something's going on with one group and the other. Whereas I feel like Marvel's pretty good about that.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where I feel like a storyline was supposed to go longer, but they like didn't tell the writers and artists, "Hey guys, we're going to start this now," because then all of a sudden something will end abruptly and they'll begin a crossover. You're like, "Wait, what? That's crazy."
Yeah, I getcha. Well,
And I feel like,
sometimes too they'll like move it back, or they'll be like, and the resolution will be in the annual, and then it's like 3 months
yeah,
till the annual comes out. And well, speaking of DC, are you current on any other DC books? I know you were reading Superman for a while there, and
I am current on Superman and Action Comics and Wonder Woman, and a little behind on Flash.
so did you read the latest issue of Superman with the or Action Comics with the Mr. Oz reveal?
So when I said current, I didn't read this week's. Did it come out this week?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I lied. I am 2 weeks behind.
Okay, well they reveal who Mr. Oz is, and it's a little underwhelming for what they built it up to be, but
That's disappointing because I feel like that's what I was talking about with some of these resolutions where you're like, really?
well, I feel like it's gonna pay off, but I don't think. I mean, just like been reading comics long enough that you learn to go, well, this probably isn't what it seems. So
Okay, that's I'll take that because there was when Mister Mixoplex popped up not too long ago, and I don't remember if that was Action or Superman,
that
but
was I think they were crossing over through both of them, correct?
I can't
If not,
remember.
it was just Superman. But that was a really good run with Tomasi and Mankey.
I really enjoyed that, but again, it was like the ending. Oh, Mixoplex has to go, and the family's back together. And granted, I think there's some more far-reaching things with that as far as the son, but I was just
Yeah,
like,
well, that was a big thing to kind of push together the New 52 continuity and this
yes,
current Superman. Like
I
it
did
built a
like how
whole
they
new
did that,
Superman.
how they sort of erased the past. But the one who did it the best, in my opinion, and it didn't just do 52, it did sort of all her history, was, and we can come back to Superman, but was Wonder Woman with Greg Rucka.
Yeah, well, Greg Ruck is amazing, and he's written some really good Wonder Woman stories. But yeah, his whole thing was. I was kind of disappointed because it disregarded Azzarello's run, which is one of the best Wonder
Yeah,
Woman stories I've ever read. But I mean, it's comic books, man. Like how many? I've been reading consistently for 10 years now, and people have died and come back and changed like 30 times. Like we're talking about Batman who died, and he knows he died. Like so, it's.
I did like how they did that. Where it's like, yeah, and I went in this machine and it turned my powers, not my powers, but my memories and all that back on. And I was like, yeah, I remember reading that. Cool.
Yeah, well, he did that twice. Yeah, he died with Darkseid, got sent back through time, all that kind of shit, and then yeah, with the Snyder run, the super heavy, and that plays into issue. You'll see more of that in issue 2 as well with Metal. But yeah, pretty good stuff right now. Are you reading anything Marvel, or are you off of that right now?
I'm off of that right now. It's been a while, meaning like a couple years. I want to say I started reading one of the new X-Men reboots. I can't remember which one, and it was all right. But when they announced the death of Wolverine, I was like, this is just stupid. And then I think they rebooted the universe again, and I'm like, this is even really stupid. So I'm out
I
for
will
now.
tell you, Secret War was really good, and what they're doing with Wolverine is Old Man Logan from the Old Man Logan universe is
Well, that's
now our Wolverine with the memories of like. For those of you who haven't read Old Man Logan, this is a spoiler, and if you haven't, you need to because it is one of the best standalone stories ever.
Yeah,
But
if you haven't, what's wrong with you?
yeah, it's so good. But he has the memories of murdering the X-Men. He has all of that,
Oh
and
wow.
he went through all of that, and then he ends up in this world, and he sees young Jean Grey and Jubilee, and he keeps freaking out. He's like, I need to leave because I'm gonna murder everybody, and they're like, no, you're not. Like whatever world you came from, this isn't that world. And they are using him pretty well right now. I'm sure they're preparing to bring back original Logan, but as of right now, I'm not totally against it. And his standalone series, Old Man Logan, has actually been pretty good. So not everything's a miss. Jeff Lemire's Moon Knight was really good with Marvel,
Jeff
and
Lemire is. I love that dude. He
dude,
was.
that's in trade, and you should definitely pick that up.
I'll
It's a
do it
little.
because when he came back with Animal Man on Noon 52,
Oh, that was amazing
it
too.
was like I don't care about Animal Man, but now I do. This is amazing.
There were some really. I mean, that I would say Animal Man, Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
Batman, and Green Lantern were really the good things to come out of the New 52.
Wonder
I
Woman.
know.
It was funny because I
Oh
went
yeah, I'm
back.
sorry. Duh, Azarella's Wonder Woman. Yeah, that as
Somebody
well.
commented on the an old Justice League review we did, trade paperback, and they were like, or no, I'm sorry, it was our when we first did the New 52 and we were commenting on the comics we really liked, and none of us mentioned Wonder Woman, and we got called out so many times for that, and it was I even wrote in there, I was like, oversight, we totally just forgot. I mean, Haley was even in it, and she didn't say it. It was like, yeah, we will now say
Yeah,
Wonder Woman
and yeah,
when that.
that Azarello run was maybe the best Wonder Woman run I've ever read. Like that was so good,
Yeah.
and that is a total oversight on our part back then because I own all of them in hardcover. Like that was one that I read single issue, and I was like, I want this. Like I want the good editions. So I own the hardcovers of that. Very good run. And yeah, even right now, what Rucka started was good, and I mean, I still think Wonder Woman's going along pretty well.
Yeah, it's okay. I just really love Rucka. I love
No, Rucka's great. Rucka's fucking
get a
so good.
chance. Have you did you read Lazarus over at
I am behind on
Penguin?
Lazarus. I know you and Jason, one of our other contributors, Jason. Uh, I know he was telling me to read Lazarus as well, and I'm very behind on that. But
Yeah, that was good stuff. He's taking a break obviously because he's so busy with other stuff, but that
yeah,
supposedly he's going to come back to it.
well, right now I'm trying to finally like when I started working at Maximum Comics. You know, Jay was like, "Hey, you need to read other things other than DC and Marvel." And I'm like, What do you mean other things besides DC and Marvel?" And one of the first, I guess, non superhero books I read was Fables, and
Nice.
I was current with that for a very long time, and then I fell off, and I reread all the trades I have, and I'm now finishing that because it's done. So I'm on volume 17 out of 25, and I'm slowly trying to finish that up, and then I'm gonna get back into some other stuff because I have to force myself to finish it, and I am waiting for some series to end before I start because I don't want to. That's what happens is I get involved and I read and then I pick up a trade and then I pick up a different trade, then I pick up a different trade, and then 3 years go by and I'm like, why the fuck? What happened to Fables?
No,
So
that's
that's what
why
I'm working on now.
I blame Netflix, but that's why I've started to binge because it's like, yeah, I can't keep up with all of this stuff, and I feel like if I read just one, then I'll completely forget what happened. So I bounce around, and unfortunately, I've been behind with some of the independent stuff. Like I haven't read. Boom had some good stuff come out a little bit ago. Can't remember off the top of my head, but two grittier comics that I really enjoyed. They were what do you call them? Like not ongoing, but they were good stuff. What was it? The Last Son of America, I think. And there was
Yeah, I
another one
need
I
to
was
I
reading.
need to spend like a week in the store just picking up trades and getting caught up on things. But I mean, it's weird. I'm kind of complaining, but I think it's awesome that we now are in this time where comics are great, and there's a ton of them out there, and like there's so much stuff to read. I don't have time to read it all.
It's it's funny you say that because I watched I think it was on Amazon, and it was like the 25 years of Image, and it showed the rise of Image Comics, and it's an awesome story. The video wasn't the greatest, but it was an awesome story. They talked to all the creators, not just McFarlane, and they went even to the present because they're talking about Jim Lee at DC, and it's funny how McFarlane. I think he still has some animosity that Lee left because he really is into this independent thing. But I think it's cool in that he understands Lee got the opportunity to basically be a head honcho at DC. How could you not grasp that? And in my opinion, Lee has corrected a lot of the wrongs that were going on. Case in point, our friend Tony Isabella and Black Lightning, in that he's now getting recognition. He's now getting residuals and all this stuff, and that would have never happened with the penny pinchers back in the day. But in this video, it was funny to think, oh my God, yeah, it was like 25 years ago. It was literally DC and Marvel, and you'd have a lot of maybe self-published books coming out if you went to the comic book store. Not to mention the fact that comic book stores were kind of hard to find, and they weren't like good, and it was really
Yeah,
a
I mean,
different place in comics. So now, I mean, you have so many independents that are actually viable, going from Dark Horse to Image to Boom to one of my favorites, which is Valiant Comics. It's just you have so many more opportunities to read great stories that aren't just DC and Marvel.
and the other thing is a lot of big name writers don't have a problem going to these independent prints, which is cool too because that's going to make as a reader you're going to follow them to these things because you're a fan of their books. So it's going to open you up to another independent book, but you're going to now see ads in there for other comics that they sell, and it's just a really cool time to be a comic book fan. Like, the movies don't always get it right, but the cool thing is you can still go to a store and get what you want and find 10 things you haven't even read yet. So, all awesome stuff right now.
I will put in a plug for one of my favorites because they're coming out with a new series. Quantum and Woody is
I
coming
saw
back
that. I saw it's
again.
coming back.
Oh, I am so stoked. If you can get your hand, I have the whole original series from Valiant back in the '90s.
Who wrote the
Christopher
reboot
Priest.
with Valiant?
Oh, it is so awesome. And then what was it? Was it James Asmus? I can't remember
Yeah,
who did
dude,
it.
he was so cool. He was
Oh, he
so
was.
cool, and that was such a good run.
Yes, I
Um,
thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, not enough people read it because it got canceled. So now they're doing sort of four-issue story arcs, but yeah, they're coming back. I'm not familiar. Maybe you know them because I really don't pay attention to the artists, but the writers. But Daniel Kibblesmith is writing, and I do know Kano. He's doing the art, so I'm really stoked to see this.
yeah, I'm definitely excited to see that. And you got me onto that. You actually gave me the entire original run, and I read through that, which was awesome. Um,
They're
but
so
yeah,
goofy, stupid, and hilarious. I love
yeah.
it.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is like a lot of people don't realize that comics are still going on, and it's not all serious or it's not all like kid stuff. Like there's no way if I had a kid would I let him read Scott Snyder's run on Batman. Like you're out of your goddamn mind. It's just not happening. Like I don't think I'd let you read Grant Morrison's run. Like it's some heavy shit in there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that's the thing is there's so many independent books stuff like right now. Manifest Destiny is maybe my favorite that's currently going on.
Cool.
Which
That's Image,
is
right?
yes, and it's the story of Lewis and Clark, but like amped up, and they're running into like creatures and minotaurs and Bigfoot cyclopses, and it's really fucking great. East to West is great. That's Jonathan Hickman. Saga's great, which is Brian K. Vaughan. Like, there's a lot of stuff you should be reading that isn't from not that you shouldn't be reading DC and Marvel, because there's a lot of good books with that. Marvel's about to do Legacy, but there's a lot of good independents that I feel like some comic readers don't mess with, and that you should definitely jump into the independent pool because there's some cool stuff in there.
And I'll take this opportunity to give a little nudge to Brandon on a lot of times. I know Dark Horse had Star Wars for a bit there, and then they went back to Marvel, but Dark Horse started buying up movie properties such as Terminator, which had a great run, but more importantly, Alien, and they were actually telling good Alien stories, unlike the stupid movies. So if you can go back and read some of those, they were really great storylines that I don't think the movies were able to get.
You mean like they're really good storylines to go with the really good movies that have been coming out? I get it. Like,
Oh, you're living in the past. Yes, when
no, no,
Alien,
no, no. Like like
Alien,
like Prometheus
I'll even
and
say Alien 3, when those came out, yes.
I feel like if we talk about this for too long, Patrick's gonna hop on here and be like,
I
"Guys,
know.
shut
You're
the
like,
fuck up."
cut, you're both fired.
Yeah, like we're not doing this. Um, but no, I mean that's cool too. And there have been some really good Alien books, so definitely check those out.
And
You know what
I'll
I
even give a plug to Boom and Ghostbusters. Awesome.
dude? Yeah. Hey, you know what else? The ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book right now
Is it? That's
is
cool.
so good, and it's it's officially the longest running or it's the longest ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book, and it has been so good. And the first 49 issues are very much just like, almost like fan service, like, oh, cool, they're doing this and they're going on this adventure. And there's a little different stuff here and there, but at 50, everything changes and it's just this original story and it's great. And yeah, you guys should definitely be checking that out if you haven't yet.
That's awesome.
But I did want to bring up, being that we're talking about comic books and the movies and all that, um, did you see the new Hellboy photo of
I
David Harbour?
did. And I hate to admit, I love the creator because we've met him at a couple cons. Um, I even like the kiddo version that they did with oh, what are their names? What are the two guys who are kind of goofy that we somehow meet and run into every time we're at Comic Con at like lunch and breakfast and
Uh, wait, who are you talking about?
the kid they usually tackle
Oh,
kids
Art
level.
Balthazar and Franco.
Thank you.
They're
Yes.
so cool. They're so cool.
Yes, I love their versions, but for the most part, I haven't been really
Oh,
into
you mean when they
Hellboy.
did the Hellboy, the Hellboy one where they're all like the little kids?
Yes, I thought
Yeah.
that was fantastic.
Oh,
But
dude,
for the most
yeah, they
part,
do some really good stuff. And Tiny Titans was a
there we
really
go.
good
Yes,
book.
yes, that's what they kept calling Tiny everything, Tiny Hellboy. But unfortunately, I've not been a huge Hellboy follower. I guess is the best way to say it. But seeing that picture, I am a big David Harbour fan. I think he's done some great stuff, and I think he's got every opportunity to make this a huge, fantastic franchise.
Yeah, and it's going to be R rated. It's going to be a lot closer to the comic books. Like nothing against Guillermo del Toro, his two movies, and
Ron
Ron
Perlman.
Perlman, because those were very, very good in their own right. Like, I love the comic book, and it definitely wasn't as close to the comic book, but they were fun and enjoyable, and I definitely feel like Del Toro had a good handle on how that world should look, and all those things should look. Like, as far as collaborating with Mignola and his artwork, I thought that was an amazing job. And there was a lot of apprehension because everybody wanted a third one to kind of finish out the story. So when this was announced, then a lot of people were like, "Fuck that! This is ridiculous." But that picture of David Harbour as Hellboy is just—it looks terrifying. It's going to be R rated. Like, I'm really excited for this.
And they've done. I know they've been in the news a lot lately because the casting. All I can think of is Ajax. What's his real name from Deadpool?
Oh yeah, he was originally selected as a character that is an
As
Asian
Ben.
American character, and he stepped down, which I thought was cool because um, that's something that I think Hollywood just kind of overlooks and never gets shit for. So
And it was cool because he fully admitted he didn't know when he got cast. He didn't understand that that
yeah.
was such a big deal, and he obviously was open to hearing fan feedback and realized what should be done. And I mean, this isn't just like an independent film that you're going to just step away and okay, I'm giving up $100. This is a movie that could be huge with residuals for the
Oh,
rest of his life.
100%.
Not
Yeah, no, Ed Draken. Is that how you say that? You guys know I'm bad at this name stuff. Yeah, I mean,
Francis.
yeah,
Francis from
Francis.
Deadpool.
Yeah, Ed. It's Schraken.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Um, no, but I thought that was really cool because you're right. Like this is potentially something that you know could get sequels and could be a big thing. Comic book movies are in, and this is going to be a hard R Hellboy movie that I'm sure the fans are going to want more of. And I just think that's really cool that he still took that upon himself to be like, you know what, I'm going to step down because you're right. You're taking this away from somebody of that ethnicity that could come in and do this.
And
And
what's nice
yeah,
is the studio actually listened because my fear was that he was going to do this and then the studio would be like, all right, well, we'll just find another white guy. And no, they actually followed through and they cast Daniel Day Kim from, if you don't know, he's from Lost. I loved his character on Lost.
he's so
As
good. He's so good.
he's,
And I think he's going to do so good in this.
yeah, I'm thrilled to see how he does with this.
Did you see who will be playing Professor Broom in this?
Man, one of my biggest disappointments with Game of Thrones is that they introduced Ian McShane and then they killed Ian
They
McShane
fucking murdered Ian
all in one
McShane.
episode.
It's like, God damn it. Ian McShane makes everything better. Like, fucking Deadwood. I mean, Deadwood's a great show, but he kills it on Deadwood. Like, and I'm like, oh shit, Ian McShane's going to be part of Game of Thrones now. And then 45 minutes later, he's definitely not part of Game of Thrones anymore.
No, and what's great is he gave one of my favorite characters, the Hound, a fantastic story arc. Like
Right?
the Hound is so much better now. Anywho,
Yeah.
yes, I,
Yeah,
I
he
did see
turned him
that cast.
around. Like, I do think that's a good call. I mean, John Hurt was just such a
Yeah,
good professor, and it was something like the way he looked, the way he talked was exactly how I always thought the professor was in the comics. But Ian McShane is a much different actor than John Hurt. But I don't know. I trust it. I trust
and
him.
I think I like about where they're going with this. They're not recasting a la the old movie. They
Yeah.
are. This is a whole. Their vision for this movie is completely different from the other one, and they're not even trying to be close. They're like, nope, this is different.
Oh, 100%. They wanted. I think this is going to be more um, close to the comic book rather than like Del Toro's was a little more comedy and a little funnier. It was still had its serious moments and some dark, but it was a lot more. It just had that Del Toro fantasy touch to it. Whereas this, I think, is going to be a lot darker and like closer to what the comic book is.
I
Because
agree.
comic books great. If you guys don't read BPRD, you should be. And you can start at the beginning, work your way through, and yeah, catch up. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. That's going to do it for this episode of the Nerdlocker podcast. Just want to do some comic talk. Definitely part of the stuff that we're into. But be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't yet. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram. Missing anything? Is that all of them?
Yeah, we got.
LinkedIn.
Let's go to the
Add our
website.
LinkedIn
Yeah,
profile.
we actually do have one, sadly.
Oh, do we? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, never mind that joke. That's a serious thing. Grab our LinkedIn profile. um, but anyways, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you here next week, and until then, you guys have a nerdy week.
All right, I just have to ask. This will be an after credits thing.
If you stayed
As
this
we're on a
long.
podcast, do you still do the Triforce Tuesday out of spite, even though we're not on video?
Oh, it's just a habit now.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure. All
I
right.
can't fucking break it, guys. Like, I don't know what else to do with my hands. I can do a too sweet, but that's already taken.
No, this is history. So if you're a long time viewer, watcher, follower, you know what we're talking about. If not, go watch an old video. You'll see. Oh, it has to have Brandon in it. He's the only one that does it.
I'm still I can't I did it so many times and now it's just part of me.